An animal farm would certainly be a wonderful imaginary place if animals could frolic freely without the pressures of labor or harvest forced on them by farmers. To see them in their bliss, chatting away with British accents through pasture fences and chicken wire, would certainly acquire millions of views on YouTube. But that's not the case in George Orwell's farm. His satirical dystopian novel, Animal Farm, takes place on a farm in England during an undisclosed time. However, the time, location, and events of the novel are satirical of Russia during a major period of Russian political upheaval, 1917 through 1945. Let's see how the setting of this novel helps to draw out the allegory of the Russian Revolution and helps warn readers about abuse of power. One aspect of setting is time, or when the story takes place. In Animal Farm, however, time is ambiguous. There is no historical reference actually given in the text, but the reader can surmise that Animal Farm most closely represents the power struggle of early 20th century Russia, between the revolution in 1917 and the rise of communism. Orwell's intent in creating this ambiguous aspect of setting may be to prevent the narrative from becoming dated, or irrelevant to its readers after several years. Though the allegory is about the rise of communism, the warnings about abuse of power are timeless. Another aspect of setting is place, or location of the story. In the novel, what was previously Manor Farm is now Animal Farm, renamed after the animals took control and forced the human out. The farm is set in England in a rural landscape between the Pilkington and Frederick farms, which are thought to represent capitalist government, specifically England and the United States, and Nazi Germany, respectively. The farm setting helps illustrate how corruption increases with power, especially in government. Farms demand a significant amount of different work to function properly, much like a country. Orwell, who is English, uses an English farm as opposed to a Russian one to perhaps bring the message closer to home. Much of the activity and meetings between the animals takes place inside the barn, which serves as a meeting place. The rules of the farm have been painted on the walls. The windmill the animals are constructing is where much of the novel's conflict takes place. In the Battle of the Windmill, neighboring farmers attempt to overthrow the animals. The animals consider it a win as they drive the humans away, but they have suffered many casualties. In the Battle of Stalingrad, the Russians managed to fight back Hitler's army from the walls of Stalingrad, though with much sacrifice. The windmill, which represents the dream of expanded communism, is destroyed. Even with the personification of the animals, they continue to live in the barn, sleeping in straw and on the ground, perhaps representing the conditions of the common people. Toward the end of the novel, though, the pigs, the most intelligent animals on the farm and the animals who are in charge, begin to venture into the house to sleep on the beds. Orwell uses this difference in place to show how the pigs do not think themselves equal to the rest of the animals. Another connection to the rise of communism is seen at the end of the novel. After the Battle of the Windmill, the pigs are seen playing cards with Frederick and Pilkington. This is probably representative of the Tehran Conference in 1943, a peace talk between Stalin, Winston Churchill, and Franklin D. Roosevelt. Orwell mocks this a bit when Napoleon, Stalin, and Pilkington, Churchill, and Roosevelt cheat at cards, revealing that their dual natures are still very much intact. Orwell was showing his distrust for both communist and capitalist governments. Animal Farm is a novel about an imaginary farm in England absent of humans and completely run by animals. While no specific time or when the story takes place is revealed in the novel, it is allegorical to the political events in Russia between 1917 and 1945, the Russian Revolution, and the rise of communism. Orwell intended the setting to be ambiguous, perhaps so the novel wouldn't be limited in its relevance over time. The place, or location of the story in the novel, is a farm representing Russia and set between two other farms, one representing the United States and England, the other representing Germany. The farm landscape and toils mirror the complications in the workings of a country. The windmill represents the dream of communism and is destroyed in the Battle of the Windmill, which represents the Battle of Stalingrad, which was when the Russians finally managed to fight back Hitler's army during the Second World War. Orwell shows inequality and abuse of power when the pigs living in the house instead of the barn like the rest of the animals. Orwell also mocks both communist and capitalist governments when the pigs and the humans cheat at cards while under the guise of friendship and peace.